If you looked at my life from the outside, you would have thought I was blessed. A good husband, a beautiful home, a future already laid out before me. People envied me. They said, "You're so lucky." But luck has nothing to do with love. Because behind closed doors, behind the walls of my marriage, I was lonely. I was waiting for a man who never came home in the ways that mattered. He gave me money. He gave me a house. But he never gave me himself. And I stayed. God knows I stayed. Out of love. Out of hope. Out of the belief that maybe, just maybe, the man I married still lived somewhere beneath the lies and the silence. But love without respect? That isn't love at all. And so here I am, finally telling the story I once kept hidden. A story of loyalty, of betrayal, and of finding the courage to say, enough is enough. I met him when I was young enough to still believe in forever. He wasn't flashy, not the kind of man who sweeps you off your feet with roses and promises. No, he was steady. He worked hard, made a good living, and to the outside world he seemed like the kind of man any woman would be lucky to have. People used to say, "You got yourself a good man." And I believed them. He provided. The bills were paid on time, the fridge was always full, and every holiday we dressed up like the perfect family. But provision doesn't hold you at night. Provision doesn't ask how your day was. Provision doesn't look into your eyes like you're still the most beautiful woman in the world. I married him for love. I didn't care about the size of the paycheck or the car in the driveway. I wanted the warmth of partnership, the laughter of companionship, the safety of knowing I was chosen every single day. And at first I thought I had that. But slowly I began to notice the distance, the late nights at the office, the vague explanations that never quite added up, the way he'd come home, exhausted, yet somehow too restless to even sit beside me. I would tell myself, he's working hard for us, for me, for our future. And I tried to be grateful, tried to remind myself that not every man shows love with words or with affection. But deep down, I felt something slipping, something quiet, almost invisible at first. A gap opening between us, one excuse, one unanswered question, one cold shoulder at a time. I can still remember the night it hit me, sitting alone at the kitchen table, the food cold, his chair empty. I looked at the clock and whispered to myself, this can't be what marriage is supposed to feel like. That was the first crack, the first shadow, the beginning of a story I never thought I'd be telling. It started with whispers, not shouts. The first betrayal never comes crashing through the door. It creeps in, quiet, almost polite, like it's asking permission to ruin your life. At first, it was the little things, excuses that sounded too practiced, phone calls that ended the second I walked into the room, the faint trace of perfume that wasn't mine clinging to his shirt. He'd come home late, brushing past me with a half smile, a kiss on the forehead, muttering something about long meetings or deadlines. And oh, how I wanted to believe him, because believing the lie was easier than facing the truth. But women, we know. We always know. There's a sixth sense that stirs inside us when love is no longer safe. His tone changed. His eyes shifted. He laughed at jokes I wasn't part of. His phone became a locked vault, glued to his hand like a lifeline. At first he hid it well. But then he stopped caring. The lies got sloppy. The secrecy turned into arrogance. He didn't even bother to cover his tracks. Lipstick on receipts. Text messages left open just long enough for me to catch a name I didn't recognize. He came home with that smug tiredness, the kind that didn't come from working late but from giving his energy, his passion, his time to someone else. The cheating itself. It hurt, yes. But do you want to know what cut me the deepest? His indifference. The way he looked at me like I was furniture in the house, something useful, something convenient, but not alive, not worth fighting for. And still, I stayed. Because when you love someone, truly love them, you fight battles no one else can see. I told myself, maybe it's just a phase. Maybe he'll come back to me. I held on to the memory of the man I married, the one who promised me forever, the one who once touched me like I was the only woman in the world. I replayed every good memory like a favorite song, trying to drown out the noise of the betrayal. I thought if I just held on tight enough, if I just kept loving him harder, maybe he would remember me. But love without respect is nothing but a cage. And every day I stayed, the bars grew tighter around me. There comes a moment in every woman's life when silence becomes too heavy to carry. For me, that moment came in the middle of the night, while he slept soundly beside me, turned away as always. I stared at the ceiling and thought, if he can give his attention to someone else, then I can give mine to myself. So I went back to school. It wasn't an easy decision, and it wasn't glamorous. I was juggling books, late-night studying, housework, and the crushing weight of loving a man who no longer cared if I was in the room. My days bled into nights. Exhaustion clung to me like a second skin. But for the first time in years, I felt a spark of purpose that had nothing to do with him. I wanted him to notice. God, how I wanted him to notice. A simple question. What are you studying? A word of encouragement. I'm proud of you. A gesture. Flowers on the table, a hand on my shoulder, anything to show he saw me. But nothing came. Not once did he ask. Not once did he look up when I walked into the room with heavy eyes from studying all night. When I aced an exam, he didn't celebrate. When I missed a family dinner because of class, he didn't ask why. His indifference was louder than any argument, more devastating than any confession of cheating. I realized then the affairs weren't just about betrayal of the body. His neglect was a betrayal of the soul. He stripped away my importance, my worth, until I felt like a shadow in my own home. But here's the twist he didn't see coming. While he ignored me, I was rebuilding myself. Every page I read, every assignment I completed, every grade that proved I was capable, it stitched me back together. His silence became my fuel. His coldness became my fire. And when the day finally came, the day I walked across that stage in my cap and gown, I didn't look for him in the audience. Because I knew deep down he wasn't proud of me. But I was proud of me. And that pride, that small but powerful flame, would soon grow into the fire that would set me free. Graduation day. I remember standing in line with the other students, cap secured, gown flowing around my legs, my hands trembling as they clutched the edge of my program. The air smelled like flowers and fresh beginnings, and somewhere in the distance, families cheered, clapped, called out names. I wanted to cry. Not because he wasn't there, but because I realized I didn't need him to be. For once, I wasn't defined by the ring on my finger or the man I loved. I was defined by me, my effort, my sacrifice, my courage. When they called my name, the applause wasn't for us. It was for me. My feet carried me across that stage, and with each step I felt years of silence peel away. The weight of his neglect, the ache of his betrayals, the empty nights, all of it fell from my shoulders. For the first time in years, I stood tall. And then, the letter came. A job offer. A salary I never imagined. A position in another state, far from the house where my love had been buried, far from the shadows of his indifference. I held that letter in my hands and my heart thundered. It wasn't just ink on paper, it was freedom. It was independence. It was the proof that I had built a life he could no longer claim credit for. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Freedom is terrifying. Because even after all the pain, all the betrayal, all the neglect, there was still love in my chest for the man I once believed he was. Love is stubborn like that. It clings to ghosts long after the body is gone. So I sat there with the letter trembling in my hands, torn between two worlds. One was familiar, even in its brokenness. The other was unknown, wide open, filled with possibilities, but also loneliness. I stared at him across the table that night as he scrolled his phone, oblivious, uninterested. And it hit me. The job wasn't just an offer. It was an escape hatch. It was a second chance at life. And for the first time, I asked myself a question I'd been too afraid to whisper. What if I took it? I wish I could tell you the decision was easy. That I looked at the letter, looked at him and walked away without hesitation. But love, real soul-deep love, doesn't vanish just because someone mistreats you. It lingers. It binds. It confuses. I loved him. God help me, I still loved him. I loved the memory of the man who used to kiss me goodnight without being asked. The man who once held my hand in crowded rooms, proud to have me beside him. The man who promised me forever, back when forever still felt possible. So when I thought about leaving, guilt pressed down on me like a storm. Was I betraying him by walking away? Was I selfish for taking the job, for choosing myself after all these years? I wrestled with those questions in silence, lying awake at night staring at the ceiling, while he slept peacefully beside me, never knowing the war raging inside my chest. And then another truth hit me. I had been loyal, faithful. Through every late night, every unanswered question, every suspicious phone call, I stayed. I never strayed. I never gave my heart to another man, even when mine was breaking. I gave him every chance to choose me, but he didn't. He chose indifference. He chose betrayal. So tell me, how could I feel guilty for finally choosing myself? It was like a veil lifted from my eyes. I realized guilt had no place in this story, because betrayal had never been mine. The guilt belonged to him. The shame belonged to him. And for the first time, I said it out loud to myself, in the mirror, one morning before work. I deserve respect. I deserve loyalty. I deserve love. And if he cannot give it to me, then I will give it to myself. That was the decision point. That was the moment I began to let go. The day I made my choice, it wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. There were no slammed doors, no screaming matches, no shattered glass on the floor. It was quiet, powerful, like the calm after a storm when the sky finally clears. I looked at him, sitting there with his phone in his hand, eyes glued to another world that didn't include me, and I realized something crystal clear. He wasn't losing me. He had already lost me. So I stood up. Not physically, not yet. But in my heart, in my soul, I rose. I told myself the words I'd been too afraid to speak. Enough is enough. I accepted the job. I began making plans, small ones at first. Updating my resume, looking at apartments, sketching out what my new life would look like. With each step I felt lighter, stronger. The guilt melted away, replaced by something I hadn't felt in years, hope. And when the moment comes, and oh, it will come, I'll walk out that door with my head high. Not because I stopped loving him, but because I finally started loving myself more. Because here is the truth. I need every woman watching this to remember. Provision is not love. Money is not respect. And no woman should ever sacrifice her worth for the illusion of stability. I gave my all to a man who couldn't see my value. But now, I will never again let someone else define my worth. And that is my confession.